Hi everyone, what's happening in your corner of the world? Last weekend I had the absolute pleasure of talking to a fellow YouTuber from the other side of the world. He is also part of Generation Z, so a couple of generations younger than me. And you guys? We need to be having conversations with this generation. We need to be listening to what they have to say because they are our next generation of leaders, teachers, scientists, architects and tradespeople. They can learn a lot from our generation and we can learn a whole lot from them. Masroor Malik is a 17-year-old living in Bangladesh. Here's his channel. I'll also put a link in the description. We had a fantastic transcontinental, transgenerational chat about the COVID-19 pandemic. Check it out. Enjoy the video. I'm really excited to be doing this, and on the other side of the world, this is
the power of the internet.
What is the current COVID situation there?
It's very bad compared to other countries. Our country started very late, and so it is very bad. And this situation, the management is a chaos at the moment compared to other countries which have controlled the situation and they're looking for the second wave. But here, there is no sign of the end of the first wave.
I'm originally from South Africa. My mom and my brother live there. They started really slowly. Their numbers were looking great for a long time. They were looking fantastic. I was thinking, wow, maybe South Africa might just come out of this okay. But now their numbers per capita are worse than the United States currently. South Africa has some very, very good doctors. They have some extremely good doctors, but they're working within a system that is corrupt, and it's a system where the healthcare system just doesn't get enough funding. So in some of the hospitals there, people are fighting over the oxygen. So in Canada, we've sort of reopened partially. We've got about 109,000 cases, or it might be a little more. I think it's maybe 110 or 111,000, but our case numbers are increasing very, very slowly at this point. The big challenge across Canada has been the long-term care facilities for senior citizens. The old population has been hit very, very hard by all of this. And if there's any silver lining to all of this, it's that the government of Ontario has launched a review of how long-term care facilities are managed because a lot of problems have been uncovered. So it's good that that is being looked into, but it's not good that the need arose for this investigation to begin with. And so now the current big debate is, we have school holidays right now through July and August. And the big debate right now is whether to open schools in September. And if the schools open, how many parents are going to keep their kids home anyway? So it looks like we are over the first wave, but the governments are now preparing for the second wave.
Sometimes COVID does not show any symptoms.
And I think that is what made it spread so quickly is people, it's a novel virus. No one knew anything about this a few months ago. And, so when the pandemic first started, no one actually realized that there could be so much asymptomatic spread. And I think if we had known that right from the beginning, we might have a very different situation today just because we'd know better.
I think what separates this pandemic from the other pandemics or viruses is that it's acting differently on different times based on different regions.
In South Africa, there are large segments of the population live in absolute poverty, and they're very densely populated as well. And it makes me realize that the ability to socially distance is a privilege in itself.
In my country, it's easier said than done to maintain isolation. They have to go out to get the daily food or the income.
And that's what happened in South Africa as well. You have people who are relying on that day's income for that day's food. So with the lockdown, there were people literally starving to death. So they couldn't maintain the lockdown and they had to start opening things up again, which has resulted in this virus spreading like wildfire.
Here in my country, in the initial stages, besides the government, many people were taking individual steps to help out the poor people. Like the people who are financially stable, they
Yeah.
were like forming organizations which will help them distribute food or water or money, which will help them to at least maintain quarantine for at least a couple of days. But the
Yeah.
thing is, for how long?
That's the thing. It's not sustainable.
Even the richest of the richest has their limit of patience limit, right? It's not just the older people or the poor people. You have to go out for some kind of work, especially the delivery work, or especially if you're a doctor, right? It's not just, it's impossible to just completely remote work. At least for something, you have to go out. Even if it's not for work, you have to go out to buy some food. And the salesperson has to be there. The salesperson cannot work online.
Well, this is the thing,
It
right?
doesn't work that way.
In America and to an extent in Canada, but mostly in the United States, they have this weird anti-mask thing going on. Like, do you guys have
Yeah,
any of
I've
that
seen few.
going? Do you have any of that going on in Bangladesh, or is everyone just happy to wear a mask there?
There is no one protesting against wearing a mask, but no one is wearing it properly. It's less about education and more about awareness. Sometimes it happens that if it doesn't happen to you, you do not realize how deadly it is.
Yeah.
In that perspective, I think some people are not realizing the importance of wearing a mask.
I saw a post on Facebook this morning where these people are selling what they're calling protest masks, which is it's not even a real mask. It's basically mesh, so it doesn't provide any protection. And it's basically sold to people who want to make a statement against masks. This has kind of gotten to the point where it's not just people deciding not to wear a mask. They're actually going out and seeking products that will let the world know that they are opposed to wearing a mask.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand why someone would prefer to have this pandemic go on and on and on. You know, people are complaining about losing their freedom, but then they won't wear the mask that will make freedom
Make them lose their life.
come sooner. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
And they could not give any biological prescriptions where the doctors are telling them not to wear a mask. It's not a solid argument. If they could show some document from a doctor that who is recommending them not to wear a mask, then it would have been a solid argument.
And my doctor friend said that there are very few people who cannot wear a mask for medical reasons. For most people who struggle medically, it's just a case of finding the right mask that'll work for them. You and your family were COVID positive.
Yeah.
And you're all in good health now?
Physically, yes, but mentally, no. Because my mom is a doctor, and that's why she's in a very bad mental health. People are just calling her up, asking for prescriptions, and she has to deal with the negativity, even if she doesn't want to.
Because it's affected your family so directly, it must be really hard for you to see people who are willfully not taking the precautions they should be.
Many people are arrogant, they're not wearing the masks properly, they're just, partially covering their face and not the nose. But yeah, at the end, it depends on them, like how they act, and like they don't want to be aware. Even if few months ago I used to make plans for like next month or few months, and now I make plans for the next week or next couple of weeks because I don't know whether I'll survive more weeks or not.
Now, when the whole pandemic started, did you guys have the problem that we had over here where everyone was going nuts buying toilet paper?
Actually, I'm not someone who buys the groceries, so I don't know. But I have seen my mom buying the toilet papers beforehand, and I was
Right,
the one who was who was telling my mom that actually COVID-19 struck 3 months later in my country, and I was
right.
seeing what's going around in the world, and my teachers were talking about it, and they were making us aware of it. And I was telling my mom that you should buy the foods and necessary supplies because there's a chance that the food supply might go down. So I was telling my mom that you should be more aware of it, and I've seen that she was buying masks, and it was specially available for her because she's a doctor. She obviously gets higher priority than other people.
We share a border with America, and I've got a lot of friends in the United States, but I don't want to see any of them. I don't want to see any Americans coming across the border into Canada, because right now the situation in the United States is so different to the situation in Canada. If you look at the COVID maps of the two countries, in America, it's just one big mass of red. And in Canada, it's a lot more contained. Our cases are, we're still getting more cases, but the rate of increase it's slowed right down. In Canada, we're saying to our government, keep the border closed for as long as you can, because as soon as you open up that border, Canadians are not safe.
That is true. The other thing is, like, it's not easy to keep the borders closed.
No, it's not. And Canada and the United States are so closely tied economically, but
Yeah,
it's what has to be done.
my teacher was telling that due to the rising globalization, the countries have become more dependent on each other, and that has benefited us. For example, if the United States has increased in GDP, it will help the other world. On the other hand, if there's a disease like COVID-19, it's going to disrupt other economies as well. And that's what's happening, right? China is a great economic power, and when it was booming, the world economy was booming. And when
Right.
the COVID-19 came and struck China, and it spread, and we all are suffering. So back in the day when there was no trade and imports and exports, people were just dependent on themselves. But due to the improvement of infrastructure and communication, trade began worldwide, and people and countries became more dependent on each other.
And we saw when they had the pandemic in 1918,
The Spanish
like
flu.
100 years ago, yeah, the Spanish flu. Their second wave came as a result of people coming back from the war. So that was generated by widespread travel as well.
People like me and most of the students around my age wants to go to Canada for higher studies and maybe probably live there because it's a very friendly country as far as we know. When are the universities and the infrastructure going back to normal? Like, what's your prediction?
So what we do know, I know some people who teach at universities and colleges, and they have already been told that their classes are going to be 100% online for the remainder of this year. So when the academic year starts in September, from September until December, they're going to be completely online. Some of the professors and the teachers are expecting it to be for the whole academic year. In terms of travel, it's hard to say, and it depends on the country as well. The border between Canada and the United States is closed. They're only allowing essential travel. The airports are running at about 10% capacity. So flights are coming in from other countries, but very few, and not all countries. A couple of months ago, I guess the pandemic had been going on for about a month. I made a video where I made predictions about how life will permanently change as a result of the pandemic. I've already been proven wrong on a bunch of things, which is not surprising, but I think I'm thinking I should do an updated version of that, just because, like a year from now, I'll come back and I'll watch these videos and I'll be like, well, I was right about this thing and I was wrong about this thing. It's quite interesting. But one thing that I'm hoping will come out of all of this is that governments around the world and healthcare systems around the world will develop better response plans. This is not going to be the last pandemic that hits humanity. It's going to happen 10, 20 years from now. There's going to be another one. And we can just hope that governments will learn from this and that we will have proper response plans in place to contain it a lot better. If you could go back in time and visit yourself in November of 2019, what would you tell yourself about this year?
I would tell myself about this year that before like the pandemic, I was thinking that I will finish my higher education, probably get a good grade, and then go to Canada. And
Right.
like my long-term plan is to live in Canada because my relatives are there. I would go back to my old self and I will tell him that to take a break and probably think about surviving rather than thriving. Because if you can
Right.
survive now, you can succeed later on. One positive thing about this COVID-19 is it has made people less judgmental. Because, for example, if someone had a lung disease, before COVID-19, they would have thought that, oh, you are a chain smoker, so that's usually lung disease.
Right.
But now when someone has a lung disease, they think that it's because of COVID-19. When someone's business used to fail before COVID-19, people used to blame the entrepreneur. You must be a bad entrepreneur, you cannot manage things. But now people think that, it's because of COVID-19. I don't know for how much long will this mentality stay, but I think people should try to be more understanding.
Yeah, I think you're right. People always judge people who are, for example, living on welfare from the government. And with this pandemic, a lot of people are now in that situation where they get it now. They understand how hard it is. They understand the challenges.
We should not take away some things even after this COVID-19 pandemic ends. For example, the habit of cleanliness and the habit of being less judgmental, being more empathetic to people, and being more understanding towards people. And because I think that's what creates a better world. That's what creates a stronger bond for humanity. Life has changed so suddenly, and I used to go to hang out with my friends, and then suddenly government closed all these schools. Like in just a couple of days, my life like surrounded with this small space I have.
Yeah, everything just grinds to a screeching halt. I'm going to look back at this video a year from now, and I'm hoping life is going to be very, very, very different to what it is today.
I just hope that I stay alive. I mean, that's my short-term goal.
That's always our number one goal, is to keep ourselves safe, keep our families safe. If we can do that, then everything else is a bonus. So there we have it. I want to thank Masroor for a great chat. It was so much fun talking to him. We spoke about a lot of other things as well, and I'll be posting those segments over the next few weeks. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, live your best life, and be kind. Bye!